Hey guys, welcome back. This is Professor Hank, and in this video we're going to talk about how you can compare strings with each other in Python. Right? So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to begin with a little bit of background, a little bit of theory. We're going to talk about this at a high level, and then we'll finish up with some coding examples. Right? So strings, strings like hello, strings like world, strings like Hank, strings like dog, strings like cat. Right? Those can be compared to one another. Right? Does dog equal cat? Does bark equal woof? What's it mean for bark to be less than woof? What's it mean for squeak to be less than or equal to Tommy? Right? How does a computer program, how does a computer make that decision? How does it differentiate that? How does it figure that out? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. Okay, so basically, here's what happens. Right. So if you want to see if one string is less than another, okay, or greater than another. In other words, if you want to see if one string comes before another, like say in the dictionary, alpha comes before beta. Well, you compare strings, or they can be compared within Python using relational operators. So your greater than, less than, equal to, not equal to, greater than or equal to, less or equal to. These can all be applied using or used with string operands, right? So how the comparison work is that they're done character by character, okay? And since internally in memory what you have is a number, right? You're not comparing, say, M versus M or A versus B. What you're doing is you're comparing numbers, right? So there is a table that lays this out. So the letter M, the uppercase M, for example, right? It's represented in memory by an integer, and that integer is 77. And there's the lowercase a, its integer is 97. The uppercase a, its integer is 65. And so there's a standard that says what these codes are for what characters, okay? And that standard, there's a table that lays it out. That's called the Ascii Table. Right? You could do a Google search for ASCII codes or Ascii Table, right? And you'll find it. Okay, it'll pop up. You'll have plenty of images to choose from to get a table in your preferred format. Okay, so when Python does a comparison to see if alpha comes before beta or if the character R is less than the character T, what it's really doing is just comparing integers, right? It's comparing those ASCII codes. So let's take a look at an example, right? So what comes first? What's less than the other, right? So let's say that I wanted to evaluate whether or not it was true that Mark was less than Mary. Okay? And so one way you can interpret this is to say, well, does Mark come before Mary? Okay. Now we as humans can look at that and say, well, yeah, alphabetically, yeah, that's what happens. Okay, but what Python does is it evaluates and answers this question by going character by character. Right? Now, if you've only got a single character, like uppercase A less than uppercase B, that's going to be true. Why? Because the uppercase A character is 65 and the uppercase B character is 66. Right? So what you're really comparing there is 65 versus 66. And so 65 is less than 66. That's true. And therefore, Python says, oh, well, uppercase A is less than uppercase B because 65 is less than 66. Okay, so that's easy to see when you've got a single character. Right? What if you've got multiple characters? Right? We're not just going to compare M versus M. Right? If we've got a tie and we've got multiple characters, M and M, right? Well, you can't just look at the M's and go, oh, well, one's less than the other because there's other characters that you have to evaluate, right? So if you have a tie, right, like we do here, M and M, they're both the same. Well, then Python goes to the next relative character, right? Moves on to the A versus A. Well, that's a tie too, right? So Python's not, can't determine yet, if one comes before the other. What about R and R? Then move to the next character. Well, that's a tie too. Right? So then you move to the next character. K versus Y. Now, it's not a tie anymore. So I can evaluate that ASCII character for K and say, oh, well, 107. Well, that's less than the ASCII character for Y, which is 121. So yeah, this is true. Mark is less than Mary. Okay. Now, what if, instead of uppercase M, we had uppercase B, right? Barry. And we want to see if Mark comes before Barry. Well, the ASCII code for B isn't 77, it's 66. Okay. So now, Mark less than Barry, this is going to be false. Okay. So why? Well, if you take a look at the first two characters of each string, right, you're doing a character by character comparison. So is this M less than B? Is 77 less than 66? No, false. That's it. That's all you have to do. And you know that this is going to be false. And so that's kind of how that works. Okay, so you go character by character, and as soon as you can determine, as soon as there's not a tie, then you can evaluate. Now, what if we were comparing, Mark versus Mark? Okay. Well, then we'd have ASCII codes that look like this, right? And so what would happen is that you're going character by character again, right? And by the time you reach the end, it's all ties. So that's going to evaluate to false because there is no ASCII code in Mark that's less than an ASCII code in Mark. Right? So this whole thing is going to evaluate to false. Okay, now what if instead we had is Mar less than Mark? Right? Well, in that case, that first string is shorter. Right? Yeah, we have ties. The uppercase M's are the same, the lowercase a's are the same, the r's are the same. But one string's longer than another, right? So if you got ties on all of the characters, that lead the string, right? But one string's longer than another. Once you get to that extra character, okay, the longer string is considered as you can say greater than here, right? So this is going to evaluate the true. Mar is less than Mark, because even though the first three characters are the same, Mark has got an extra character, and that makes it bigger. Okay? So let's take a look at a coding example, and we'll just ask the user for a couple strings, and we'll tell the user which one's bigger, right? So write a program that asks the user for two different strings, and then tell the user which one's bigger than the other, for example. Compare them. So we could have the first string, which we'll call string1. And we'll ask the user to enter a string. Okay. And then we'll ask for another string. Okay. Enter another string. Okay. And then we'll just do a comparison. Right? We'll say, well, if string1 is less than string2, right, then we'll go ahead and print out string1 comes before string2. Okay. Otherwise, we'll print out the opposite. It's something like this. Okay. So let's go ahead and test it. So the first string, I'll type hello. Right. Second string, I'll type world. Right. And hello comes before world because the H has a smaller ASCII code than the W. Okay. Now, if I was to do that backwards, in the other order, now I'm still going to see hello comes before world because we kicked down to the else part here. Right. So maybe it'd be a little bit more useful for me to say something like else string1 doesn't come before string2. Yeah, let's try that. That'll be a little bit more. That'll be a little bit easier to see. Okay, so we'll do the world and then hello. Right? So world doesn't come before hello. Okay, so you could see if they were the same, right? We could do something like, let's modify this a little bit. If string1 equals string2, right? Then we'll print string1 is the same as string2. Okay, we'll do something like that. Yeah, we'll just do a series of if statements. Yeah, that's what we'll do. String2, right? And then we'll print string2 is, or comes after. How about that? Comes after. Well, no, let's see here. So string1. String1 comes after string2. Okay, yeah, so we'll do that. Let's try that. Okay, so we'll do the hello world thing again. Hello world. So what's going to happen? Well, hello comes before world, right? Because hello, H, has got a smaller ASCII code than world. So this if triggered, and then these two ifs evaluated to false, right? So let's try it again. This time we'll do world as the first string, and then we'll do hello as the second string. And so it says, you know, hello, or world comes after hello, right? Because this evaluated to false, this evaluated to false, this one evaluated to true. And so, you know, string1 was world, and that was greater than hello, so this evaluated to true. Right? Now, what if we wanted to have two strings that were the same? Hello and world. Right? Well, you know, this is, oops, I meant to say the same, right? So hello and hello. Okay? So hello is the same as hello. So hello is not less than hello. So that's false. So this first if gets skipped. Hello is equal to hello. So this is true. So we print this out. Right? Hello is the same as hello. And then for the last if, well, hello is not greater than hello. So this print statement didn't execute. Okay. Now let's take a look here and compare 123 with 6. See what happens. Well, that's interesting. 123 comes before 6. What are you talking about? 123 is greater than 6, isn't it? Well, the integer 123 is greater than 6. That's true, but we're not comparing integers. I'm not using the int function anywhere in this program. I'm comparing the string 123 against the string 6. Right? So when 6 is a string, that's the character 6. Then 123 is a string, that's 3 characters. That's a string that's 3 characters long. 1, 2, 3. Each one of those characters is inside that string. So it's 123 versus a single character string 6. Right? So that's what we're comparing. So let's compare 123 versus 6. Okay. Is this going to evaluate the true? Yeah, because the ASCII code for the character 1 is less than the ASCII code for the character 6. So this print statement executes, and so we see 123 comes before 6. Now this is false because 1 and 6 aren't the same. This is false because 1 does not have an ASCII code that's bigger than 6, right? So you got to understand what's happening under the hood, so to speak, to understand why these operators are evaluating the way they are. Okay, so let's do one more example, right? So I did the Mary and the Mark thing, right? In the previous discussion, right? When we started this off. So Mary and Mark. Okay, Mary comes after Mark. Yeah, you know, because string1 was Mary. Well, that Y has a bigger ASCII code than the K does, right? So this is going to evaluate to false. Now the Y and the K, different ASCII codes, so that's false. Okay, but here, you know, the M and the A and the R are the same for both strings, but the Y has a bigger ASCII code than the K. So this one does evaluate the true, and so then we see Mary comes after Mark. Okay, so that's going to bring this video to a close. If you felt that the video was useful, please consider giving the video a thumbs up, and if you thought that the video sucked, well then you've got that thumbs down button as an option as well. If you'd like to see more videos, if you're interested in more content from the channel, feel free to hit that subscribe button. And as usual, if you're a student of mine and you have further questions, feel free to drop me an email or to stop by my office hours. Okay, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.